YouTube Ozic going the Goat House is back. We got that big roster cut date coming up here for the NFL. There'll be some surprises, a lot of roster moves. We'll have you covered. But in this video, I got a few players that teams will be trying to trade these players, but they may have to cut them to save that roster spot. So I'm going to break these players down. I have some top landing spots to kind of narrow it down to top 3 for each of these players here. So really excited to talk about. Some teams could be ending up with these new players here and be getting better because of it, because these are some solid additions perhaps. Follow us on Twitter for constant live news, updates, rumors, and more. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on here on the channel. I'm excited about this content leading up to the season, and I'm really excited about our in-season content. Hopefully you can join us for that. Here's our Twitter. All these updates, the roster moves right here on our Twitter, so make sure you follow us there. So the first one is the obvious one, Jimmy Garoppolo, who I don't think will be traded. This video, again, is these players are not just cut guys, not just trade guys. They're kind of the guys that they'll look to trade these guys. If they can't trade them, they may be solid players available because they will be cut then. There's going to be a lot of obvious players cut, a lot of small-name players cut. There are going to be some surprises as well. But Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't think will be traded. Again, the 49ers has been obvious. They've been trying to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to give one last push, but as of right now, there's no takers, and it makes sense. I was saying this since day one that, teams have to know the 49ers will eventually cut this guy because they can save $25.5 million by cutting him. The Niners could really use that space to go out and maybe make trades on their own or sign available free agents, which are some good ones, or get some of those waiver claims that are coming up here. That'll be on Wednesday, the actual waiver claims. The roster cuts on Tuesday. So the Niners want that space. They're not going to pay a backup $25 or $26 million to be a backup, right? So, they would love to keep Garoppolo as insurance, but not for that price when they're trying to go out and get better by adding other players. And with that money, they can do that for sure. So they're going to cut the Niners, and other teams have the leverage, or the Niners are going to cut Jimmy Garoppolo, and the other teams have that leverage because they know it's going to happen. So to narrow it down to top 3 landing spots if cut, went to Seahawks because they got a disaster at the quarterback position. And the 49ers may not want to trade this. They'd take anything at this point, but traded the Seahawks. Not that I think the trade would happen anyways because division rival. But, Seahawks, he would instantly be their best quarterback. And that would instantly make them a lot better because right now they have weapons. They obviously have playmakers throughout their team, but they don't have the quarterback to get them the ball. And I'm kind of... the Seahawks stock for me is kind of going down. Before it was like they could be sneaky because they have the weapons, but it's just not looking great for them right now. So it's really has fell. Not that it was high in the first place. But with Jimmy Garoppolo, then it makes those weapons better. It makes them relevant, So, that would be one spot. The Browns, because he fits so well. Some similarities with the Niners did with Jimmy Garoppolo. They're a strong running game. They have a talented team as well. They can actually be a playoff team with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they definitely can. They definitely can be that and some. They're going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, but Watson would be back anyways. That's just kind of the tough situation, though. If they're winning, I think you have to take Garoppolo out for Watson, but that's a different topic, I suppose. And I put the Giants in here. I really think there's a main top 2 with the Seahawks and the Browns. Some people will mention the Panthers with Darnold injured, but Darnold is the backup, and I think people would know that, but and they have money, so people are probably like, oh, Garoppolo for the Panthers. No, I don't think they would waste the money on that. They like Baker. I like what I see from Baker. The Giants, I put as that third option, but I'm really looking at the Seahawks and the Browns for Jimmy Garoppolo. Another quarterback that might surprise people, and this isn't one that'll be a starter, but a pretty somewhat of a big name somewhat that could be available because he was just drafted in the 3rd round, Kellen Mond, that is, last year, and it's not looking great right now. He not the best reports from the coaching staff, which was different last year, and then this year it's a whole new staff, so they don't really care that the Vikings draft in the 3rd round. Obviously, it's not their baby, obviously, and then they had him, Mond, get a lot of reps. He actually looked okay in that first preseason game. More good than bad, obviously, in that game. But the second preseason game, they kind of let him start. Had a really bad interception on that first drive, and he had a really bad interception to pretty much end the game. And then the next day, they trade for Nick Mullins. And they have Sean Mannion as well. So I think what most people are expecting is they move on from Sean Mannion and then maybe keep Mullins and keep Mond or keep Mond in the practice squad. I think Mullins is locked in as that QB2. But I'm thinking they might just move on from both. They just, Kirk Cousins, knock on wood, is a very durable quarterback. I got some wood right here. We'll knock on it. And then Mullins a solid option too for them. So they may not need to waste a QB3. They got a deep running back room. They got a deep pass rush room with some young guys on there. So then they want to use those extra roster spots for something like that. So they can move on from Mannion and Mond. And again, it's like they don't have too much stock in Mond because this new staff wasn't the one that drafted him. So maybe they've just seen enough. He had a really bad outing that last preseason game. Boom, they go and trade for Nick Mullins. So it's pretty interesting, but I still don't mind that third-round pick the Vikings used on Mond because why? Because Mond had the traits. He has the really strong arm and the athletic ability, and he's won in his college career. You got to work on the mechanics, kind of the release, the footwork, and then you're hoping on that to improve his decision-making, but mainly his accuracy. I take a gamble on that all day in the third round, even if it doesn't work. There's teams that gamble on that in the first round. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. Those are the guys you want to give a crack at there, in the third round. So I still don't really, even though it looks like it's not working out, I really don't mind that pick still. I take that shot all day. It's kind of low risk in the third round, but so they actually could move on and they might sniff around and be like, hey, here's a guy that some teams liked. They like his upside, and maybe, I would love for him to go to like the Bills or the Chiefs because that they developed, what the Bills did with Trubisky, bringing him in for a year. I would love that. I almost put the Bills on here for that reason. They maybe just rather keep Keenum or Barkley. Even though Keenum has struggled a little bit this preseason, I think they would rather go that route. And the Chiefs probably just keep Henny in there. But I would love for a team like that, a team that works with quarterbacks well and kind of tweaks the mechanics a little bit, because Mond has a ridiculous arm. You wouldn't know it because he doesn't let it loose a lot, So it's just kind of up here, a lot of it, and some of the mechanics. But the Seahawks, again, a QB needy team, and they valued getting Drew Lock in there because they view him as some upside. They're in rebuild. Could we kind of get that upside and extend him? Maybe they take that shot with Mond. The Panthers could use a backup. I think he would fit their system a bit. And then, Sam Darnold's out. Matt Corral's out. Darnold not out for the whole year, but he's out. So it's Baker and P.J. Walker who they could roll with. They may like the idea of Mond instead of P.J. Walker. Question mark, perhaps. And I think it would be a really good fit behind Burrow at the Bengals, who think you would like to trust their, Burrow was naturally good, but you like to trust their judgment and the ability to work with quarterbacks. And I think he fits well, and they could use a backup as well. And maybe Mond's not even a second string right away, but I would like for him to go to a team that could work with him a little bit. Again, I would love the Bills or the Chiefs, the Chargers, teams like that. We'll see if it happens, but this could be one that's no one's really talking about, that he could be let go. I think people are kind of looking at it like, Mon, you like to think he has some upside still. They just drafted him in the third round. There's no way they're going to cut him, right? It's a whole different staff in there, and they just don't seem confident with it. I would trust a team a little bit more with the that has proven quarterback development there. So I'd actually love that for Mon. I think he would turn out with the right team, actually, because I still think the upside is in there. Talk about some running backs. We're talking about all offensive guys in this video. Ronald Jones, the Chiefs running back, is one that's kind of been brought up as a trade, and one's kind of been brought up as they're probably going to cut him. So it kind of really fits this video very well, because it's just, he might be the poster child of this. I guess Garoppolo kind of feels more like a cut right now, but Ronald Jones is kind of both. But in this video, it's kind of guys I was leaning towards being cut or more likely. But they may sniff around, see if hey, you want a deal for Ronald Jones for like a 7th round pick, swap picks, but he may end up being cut. The top 3 teams, I went with the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Giants. Eagles could be looking for another running back. They have Miles Sanders, and they kind of have the unique, shifty, pass-catching guys in Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. I almost said Miles Sanders twice. So kind of looking for another running back to kind of like a Miles Sanders that can do a bit of everything, but more of your traditional every down back. So that made sense. The Falcons could use another guy. Maybe they're good with kind of their guys there, but I think Ronald Jones would be pretty good on the Falcons. And the Giants are looking for that RB2, that legit RB2 behind Barkley. I think it's pretty important role. They had to cut back when it came to cap, but now they might be looking for the cheap options there. Again, other teams could be interested and could be the landing spot, but I try to narrow it down to the top 3. But somebody could be getting Ronald Jones, which I thought could be good with the Chiefs, but they still like Clyde Edwards-Helaire as their running back 1. And some other options have stepped up. They like McKinnon and Pacheco as well, as he has stepped up. So really not much use for Ronald Jones. I think he could be productive. Not crazy productive, but productive somewhere else. He looked pretty damn good a couple years ago for the Bucs. Maybe the Bucs bring him back. I thought about putting the Bucs up here, but I really like the idea of what they have over there. Obviously, Leonard Fournette's the guy. I like the idea of Rachaad White being a sneaky rookie there, and they have Vaughn, who hasn't really turned out, but he's looked pretty good in preseason, and they have Gio Bernard as well. So thought about them though. The return, maybe Ronald Jones too. If he doesn't have any takers and he's just sitting there, the Bucs go, hey, we'll give you the very minimum, and he might be like, all right, yeah, better than sitting on my couch all year. So I could see that. Another running back, and I end up going, which I didn't really want to do, but I end up going with the same exact top 3 landing spots here for Myles Gaskin and the Dolphins. He's just too far down the depth chart right now. New staff in there, new running backs. He'll be available, and I think Gaskin actually might be more appealing to teams than maybe Ronald Jones even. I could see that. So through the Eagles in there, again, it's the same teams. The Eagles, the Falcons, the Giants. I think more so, I like the Giants. This could be one behind Barkley that they kind of mix in there a bit as well. I really like the Giants for Gaskin. Good teams like the Ravens. They're always collecting running backs. Gus Edwards out for a little bit, being on one of these backs perhaps. I really like those 3 teams that are looking out for a running back. I could see the Falcons being like, we're good. I think most of us think they need a running back. I could see them being like, we're good though. We'll pass, for any running back. So I could kind of see that. And the Eagles will look around a bit. And the Giants are really in the market for a second running back here. I like the Giants. I like the Giants for Gaskin there. So we'll see. Speaking of the Dolphins, Lynn Bowden, Preston Williams and Lynn Bowden, we talked about them in the past, but as potential trade candidates, I think at the end of the day, it actually might. I could see neither being traded. They've been talked about for being shopped for some time, and it might be a letdown. And one or both could be traded, very possible. But it could be a letdown that neither are traded. One is kept and one is cut. So I thought about Preston Williams up here. I went Lynn Bowden though, who's kind of that gadget receiver that also can be a return man. The Browns brought in Jakeem Grant just for that. So the Browns make a ton, and he got injured, and they need receiver help anyways. So the Browns make a ton of sense for Lynn Bowden, a ton of sense. The Texans looking for another guy as well. And the Bears, which I predicted maybe a month ago, that maybe less than that, but that he will be cut, eventually be cut, and will sign with the Bears. The Bears are trying to run some gadget plays, get creative with Fields out in space. I thought Bowden make a lot of sense. So the Bears are up here because it makes sense and was once my prediction. I'm kind of leaning towards the Browns right now just because it makes a lot of sense. There could be other teams. It was tough to only list 3 here for these receivers. I got another one coming up here. It was tough to only list 3 because I like the Falcons. I like the Ravens. Definitely like the Ravens as well. There's a couple. We'll talk about another team in there too. There's quite a few teams I could use a receiver. The Packers. Definitely like the Packers as a possibility. Colts, teams like that. But these are the top 3 if I really had to narrow it down, which was very tough. But once I had a prediction of the Bears, and I'm really feeling the Browns right now, so I'm feeling those 2 teams. We'll see what happens there. But he could be traded. Team may be desperate for a return man 1 that could also kind of help us at receiver. They may want to trade. It just sounds like the Browns. So they may trade just to make sure they get him, because if he goes to waivers, do the Browns land him? Maybe they panic a little bit. So that's a possibility. That's actually it's a possibility. That's why he's kind of been known as a trade candidate there. Maybe it'll be flipped. Maybe they keep Bowden. Maybe they cut Preston Williams, or maybe they trade one, cut the other. It's definitely a possibility. And then one more here. It's end up being 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 receivers. Quintin Cephas, the Lions receiver, who's been solid when given the opportunity for the Detroit Lions, but they've added quite a few receivers, over this last year. And the thing that could keep Cephas on the roster for now is that Jameson Williams will miss some time. So that's the big one there. But they have quite a few good young receivers, and a guy like Josh Reynolds, who's a veteran, they're going to probably keep around as well. And they've added Chark, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They have these guys, so they could move on from Cephas and let him get an opportunity. And he could be traded just because he's a receiver that could play for somebody that needs a receiver. So. could be traded for something late, but I think he could be Lions maybe trying to trade him. Maybe they end up cutting him to save that roster spot. But I could also see them keeping him as well just because Jameson Williams is injured. And then Chark has the injury concern. So that's where I was like, maybe they keep Cephas. So it's been tough, but he's kind of been brought up in this conversation. I thought the Ravens in there. The Falcons, I think Cephas, we just talked about Lynn Bowden, way different type of receiver, gadget, inside guy, returner. Cephas more of an outside. I think Ravens and Falcons could be looking for more of this type. The Bears could be looking for all of the above. The Browns, tough to leave the Browns off this because they could be looking for all of the above as well. But they have Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones as kind of the outside guys there. And it's tough to keep the Texans off because the Texans are looking for a receiver as well. So really tough to keep the Texans off this. Want to switch it up a little bit, some different receivers in here, or different teams, receiver-needy teams for this. But it's going to be like a mini free agency. Once the cuts, we're going to see all the cuts, and this is going to be like, all right, this guy's available, this is a young guy that's available, it's pretty good. And there's wow, that's a surprising guy that's available. That's on Tuesday. We're going to have you covered, live updates on Twitter. And then Wednesday by noon, the cuts on Tuesday is 4 p.m. Eastern. On Wednesday by noon Eastern, we'll know who claimed who. Which is always fun. Who are these free agents that you brought in? And then it's kind of got to cut down again, because if you added guys, you got to cut down a couple more guys or one guy. So then you got that, and then those guys are available. So it's kind of like a cycle that eventually dies off. And then you got some big time free agents that are still left, which I think teams are kind of waiting. I think two things. I think teams are waiting to see who they can get on waivers, maybe last second trades. There'll be trades during all this, and then they'll maybe, if they missed out or they know then who's available, who's not from waivers, they'll pounce on the free agents. And then the second part is, I think free agents, some of those veteran free agents it's only, maybe it was so far, like through training camp preseason, it was only worth playing to them if they got X amount of dollars. And I think after they see everything happening and unfolding and teams still have openings and it's just about to be just plain and simple football, irregular football, no training camp, none of that. The players might be like, hey, the agents will call the teams up like, hey, all right, we're going to come down a little bit. We're ready to play ball. Both of those things. So that's why this is like more talented free agents that I ever could remember available this time. So it's going to be, when I say mini free agency, a mini off season, I really mean it. And it kind of feels like that every year with like the waivers and everything. But this year is going to be fun, I think. So we'll see the live updates on Twitter, my thoughts on additions and everything there, and then we'll post some videos as well. There's some last second predictions and things we want to get to, and then that'll be for the next week, obviously, and then the in season. Football and in-season content, which I cannot wait for. It feels like it's been forever, so I know a lot of you are looking forward to as well. So make sure you like, subscribe, turn notifications on. That'll be much appreciated, and make sure you don't miss any of the upcoming content here that we're excited about. Again, follow us on Twitter, @GoDallasNFL. There's going to be a lot of action on there, and then super followers on there gets that bonus content. A lot more coming in season. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.